Okay, so we're on Samach Zayin Amid Aleph. I think we finished 67A1, but we have to go through it again because we have to have it in our mind so we understand what comes next. So we were talking about Nakdiman Ben Gurion, who was extremely rich in the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, who lost his money, and his daughter said, and his Gemara said he was so rich they would put fancy wool things for him to walk on, and then the aniyim, he would let the aniyim take it. So they used it once, and it went to the aniyim. So he said, if he did so much tzedaka, why did he lose his money? So the Gemara in the and the top of Samach Zayin Amud Aleph at the beginning of 67A1 said either because he did it, he didn't do it, he did it for his own honor, not to give it to the poor people. It's true the poor people got it, but it wasn't. It was really for his own honor, or um, even though he was so rich he could afford this, he could have afforded a lot more also. And so some, I think the Marsha discusses the fact that there's a Gemara in Rosh Hashanah and somewhere else, maybe it's in Sachem, that says if you give tzedakah on for an ulterior motive, it says you give tzedakah so that your son will get healed. It's a good tzedakah. So yes, so even though if this was not for the sake of giving tzedakah, why, according to the first answer, what was the problem? So he answers, there's a difference. When you give tzedakah, you want to give tzedakah, but you want to get a certain reward for it. That's still tzedakah. Here, he didn't even really care about the tzedakah. He only cared about his own honor. Caring about your own honor is worse than doing tzedakah for the zchus, for, let's say, so that your son would get healed. Okay, so now we're at the fifth line, and it's 67A1, the second new paragraph. Tanya, we learned in a brayso. Am Rabbi Lazar ben Tzadok, Arab ben Achama, Im lo re'isia shahaisam laketas or mebei talfe. Rabbi Lazar ben Tzadok said, I should see consolation, meaning I saw something really bad happen. That I saw the daughter of Nakdimon was taking barley from the hooves of horses in Akko. I called this a pasuk from Shir Hashirim, meaning he made a drasha based on the pasuk. If I don't know you, O beautiful one of the women, go out in the footsteps of the sheep and let your animals graze over there. So al tikri gdiosayech ella gviosayech. So instead of the pasuk literally is saying in the footsteps of the sheep. So here she was going into the hooves of the horse, and Gediosayach instead of your kids, meaning the baby goats, it's Geviosayach, your dead bodies. That or Art Scroll seems to say in the note that she was for her own body, she was trying to get nourishment for herself, but in Adon Olam, we say V'im ruchi geviyasi Hashem li v'lo yira. So the word geviosayach, I think is more common. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's used in terms of a corpse, of a dead body. But either way, it was a pretty bad thing that there was so little food. She was trying to get barley from the horse's hooves just to sustain herself. Amar Rav Shemin bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Hichnisa lo zav. So Rav Shemin bar Abba said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, if she brought gold into the dowry. So according to Rashi, this is, I guess, bullion chunks of gold. According to Tosfos, Tosfos mentions the Rach that we're talking about golden jewelry, and some say that it would be golden, let's say, serving utensils that you would use, for a fancy dinner or something.
How would people get this wealthy at that time? I don't understand.
Maybe they had a monopoly on something. Or maybe, they brought something from abroad and no one else was able to get it over there. So Mesavit. So Shaman Osov Arehu Kishvayev. We estimate the value or we appraise the value of this gold thing. So according to Rashi, it's of the lump of gold. According to Tosfos, it's a golden something. It's not money, it's gold, and it's in the dowry. It's the exact value. So if you remember last week, we learned that cash, if she brings in $1,000, you increase it by 50%. On the end, we mentioned that the Gemara would hold that it's increasing it by a third because you look at the final price. So you would write back that you would give her $1,500 back because he had $1,000 to do business. He can make some profit. So if she brought in 1,000, and in the ksuva they would write in 1,500. And vessels, things that are usable, they're going to deteriorate in value or decrease in value. So if they brought in $100 worth of items, we would write $100 worth of items, we would write $80 in the ksuva because they would go down by 20%. So what do we do for these golden things? So we appraise it, so we say it's worth $3,000. So he writes in the ksuva, I'll give you also $3,000 in case I die first or if we get divorced. So Mesave, they asked against his halacha from Reb Shaman bar Abba Rabbi Yochanan Hazav Harehu Kekelim. Gold is like vessels. My laf Kekelim shall kesef the paste. Isn't it silver vessels that they go down in value by a fifth? So how could Rabbi Yochanan had said that? We have a brisa. Rabbi Yochanan was an early Amora, but he was an Amora. We have a brisa that says, without any other dissenting opinion, that gold is like kalim. In kalim, we would understand that to be that they depreciate in value. So how could Rabbi Yochanan say that they stay? You write their current value in the ksuva. So Gemara says lo kalim shalzav lo paschi. No, it doesn't mean silver vessels that go down in value, but it means gold that hold their value. Im kain kikei love mi baile. If so, the brisa should have said hazav harehu kikei love. Gold is like its vessels, meaning gold vessels, and you wouldn't confuse it with silver vessels, which depreciate in value. So that's one question. For Tanya, we have another question against Rabbi Yochanan from a different brisa. Zav harehu kikelim. Gold is like vessels. Dinrei zav harehu kiksafim. Golden coins, these are real coins, are like money that you increase them by 50%. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer b'makom shenagu shelo leparton. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says if you're in a place where they don't exchange the gold coins for smaller coins, you estimate how much the money is worth, and you just keep that money in the ksuba. Since he can't break that money into smaller denominations, it's not so usable. So it doesn't have the law of money because the reason that money goes up in value is because you could invest it. But because he's only going to have these big chunks, he may not be able to get into a business deal with this money. So if it's worth $8,000, he writes $8,000 in ksuba. He doesn't write $12,000. So now 67A2. So Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Ahaya. Which halacha does Rabbi Shimon Gamliel talk about? That he says that if you don't split a gold coin into smaller coins, it stays at the value. If it's going on the second din of the brisa. So the first thing in the brisa was gold is like vessels. The second thing is that gold coins are like silver. So if Rabbi Shimon Gamliel was talking about it, the seifa that it's like silver, meaning it could go up, that implies that the Tanakama holds that even if you're in a place there where they don't give you change for this valuable gold coin, he still treats it like the Tanakama treats it like money. And if you brought in 8,000 of these silver dinrin, you write 12,000 in the ksuba because it's treated just like money that you could do business deals with. So it's going to increase in value. Lo nafki, but you can't spend the money. So how could the Tanakama possibly say that you treat it like money? Elalav aresha. So Rabbi Shimon Gamliel has to be talking about the first halacha in the brisa that zav is like vessels. V'hachi kamar, and this is what he means. Zav haroka kalim. Gold is like vessels. My kalim, what are vessels? Kalev shel kesef. They're like silver kesefs, which, if it was worth $100, we knock off 20%. So if he brought $100 worth of vessels into the marriage as a dowry, he'll write, I'll give you, in case we get divorced or I die first, you'll get an additional $80. But this stuff is is besides for the 200 or 100 zuz of the regular ksuva, we're talking about additions on the ksuva right now. So if they got married, we learned in the first parak that the ksuva is 200 zuz for a basula, 100 zuz for an almana or a grusha. So that's stop. If additionally she brought in $100 worth of kiddush cups, silver kiddush cups, so it's something that's valuable, but it's going to depreciate from use. It's going to wear out a little bit, get chipped, this or dented, whatever. So he says, besides for the 200 zuz of the ksuva or whatever, I'm going to give you an additional 80 zuz because of this dowry of $100 worth of kiddush cups. And if they brought a dowry of $5,000, he would write in the ksuva, I'm going to give you $7,500, the amount of the cash plus 50%. In addition to the base ksuva of 200 zuz. This is going to be written in the ksuva, yeah. So imagine the car as a base model. The base model is either 200 zuz or 100 zuz, depending if she's a basula or not. But depending on the dowry she brings in, they add more to the ksuva. And what we've been learning about last week and now is that if it's cash, you write this the add-on onto the ksuva. The extra options is you add 50% to the amount of cash. If it's utensils that are going to use and wear out or whatever, you decrease those in the ksuva by 20%. So if you bring $100 worth of kiddush cups in, you write $80 additional into the ksuva. And then there's certain things which, Rabbi Yochanan claimed, we're trying to figure out exactly what he means. There's certain things that you appraise them and you write them the value they're appraised. These things appraised for $3,000, so we're writing $3,000 in the ksuva. It doesn't appreciate by 50%. It doesn't depreciate by 20%. So we're learning about 3 categories of stuff.
Expect wife and husband to be really sophisticated in.
No, not really. But I guess to an extent, we see that there's some aspect of estate planning, but it's not for Yerusha, but just for your own finances later in life. But if she brings in a certain dowry, so she will get certain money based on that dowry and based on the type of dowry she brings in case of divorce or if the husband dies first. So it has to be that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is talking about the Reisha. V'hachi kamar zav hareo kekelim, my kelim kelm shel kasef. The dinrays of Haram Kiksaf, and the Tanakama holds that golden dinrim are treated like silver, like money. So you increase it by 50%. Wait, no. The first case is Zav Hareo Kikelim, that it's like vessels, so you decrease it by 20%. And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says Harehu Kedinrim Shozab Malkum Shanagu Parkim. And Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says we have to slightly change the text. The original text was Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says in a place where they don't split them, you have to appraise them and they stay at their appraised value. So we have to say that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is talking about gold, if that this gold will be like gold coins in a place where you can't exchange them for smaller coins, and therefore you get full price for it and you don't depreciate it by 20%. So it ends up that according to the Brisa, the Tanakama holds gold is like utensils, that it gets depreciated by 20%. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says that it stays at the regular value, but golden coins are like money, and you increase it by 50% in the ksuva. So it ends up that Zav Hareo Kekalim, gold is like Kalim, that you decrease it by 20%. And so Rabbi Yochanan So it seems, I don't know why this is such a strong question, because it ends up that Rabbi Gamliel doesn't follow like the Tanakama, but he doesn't contradict the Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, but the Gemara is assuming that he doesn't hold like either of these opinions. So we don't have any. So Rabbi Yochanan's statement is contradicted by brisa, by two separate brisas. So the Gemara says, "Lo, no, that's not how Rabbi Yochanan would learn this brisa. Liolam aseifa." Rabbi Yochanan would learn that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is arguing on the last din in the brisa. So the second part in the brisa says that golden dinarim are like silver, are like money, that you would increase it by 50%. But Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says if you can't exchange them into smaller denominations, you just keep them as their appraised value. If it's $3,000 worth of coins, you write $3,000 in the ksuva. Since you can't buy anything else with it, you can't increase it by making profit on business deals. But we had asked originally, how could the Tanakama possibly argue on that? If you're not able to exchange these for smaller money and spend it, how could the Tanakama says it has the status of cash? So the answer is, you can, with difficulty, you can spend them. Normally you can't, but with difficulty you can't. And this is what the machlokas is between the Tanakama and Rav Shimon Gamliel. Mar Savar came to the Tanakama holds, since you can spend them, it's not impossible to spend them. We treat it like money, that it can be spent and you can make money on it. Umar Savar came to Lunafki lo mishabchinan. But Rav Shimon Gamliel says, since it's very difficult to spend this money, it's not treated like cash, and we don't give it the increase of 50%. No, we're talking about gold coins. So Rabbi Shimon Gamliel holds that gold coins, since it's very in a place where it's very hard to exchange it into smaller money. It's like breaking $100 bill. That's what we're talking about. So these coins are so valuable, people wouldn't give you change for it, because then what would they do with it? So because of that, it doesn't have cash value, because you can't spend it like cash because it's not convenient enough to spend like cash. I mean, lahavdil, where Israel at certain times they have money, that certain money was going out of circulation and new money was going in circulation. And I'm not talking about when they changed from liras to new shekel or this. They were regular shekels, but they were going to a higher tech thing with a hologram and whatever. So Greeny said, if you're giving what?
When they went from old shekels to new shekels.
No, that it changed in value. But no, we're talking about they were all new shekels. This is less than around 20 years ago, but they had older bills. And in order to stop counterfeiting or fraud, they were going only to high-tech bills that had like a hologram or something in it. So there was a deadline that they would stop that the currency, you could go into a bank and exchange the money, the old bills for new bills. But like cab drivers and stuff stopped accepting it, even though it was still legal tender, they wouldn't accept it. So that's maybe an example where it did have a real value, but if storekeepers and people weren't accepting it as cash, it's only nafak idea chak. And then Ali went and had such trouble getting a bank. He went because they took his passport at the first desk, and then at the second desk they asked him for his ID, and he said they kept it at the first desk. Like, oh, you don't have ID, we can't help you. Like, you see them over there, call them and ask, and eventually he got it and was able to exchange it for money. But that's typical Israel, and that maybe is an example of this nafka de'atchak, that you could spend it with great difficulty.
We had a similar problem with $100 bill. They didn't accept, for example, they had some things and the doors.
Where, in Israel or here? Oh,
We tried to change $100 bill.
oh, to get shekels.
Well, we don't accept this, we don't accept this because it has this, because it doesn't have that.
By the way, don't ever change at the airport.
They give you a bad rate anyway.
No, they
But
don't.
at other places that you go, they give you a higher exchange rate if you give them $100 bills. Ibay Sema, another way that we could explain that Rabbi Yochanan doesn't conflict with any of the opinions in the Brisa. Kul Rabbi Shimon Gamliel he. The entire Brisa follows Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. V'chasur metzur v'hachiktani. There's a missing phrase in the Brisa, and this is what it should say. Because remember that the Mishnayos were transmitted orally, so sometimes there was a garbled transmission. So the Gemara says sometimes that the text of the Mishnah must have been something else. Now the Vilna Gaon doesn't agree with that. That's the Pshat Mechsura Mechsura, but according to the Vilna Gaon, I think he explains Chesura Mechsura is that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, who when he was composing the Mishnah wanted to do according to a certain opinion, but the Gemara didn't want to deal with that opinion, so therefore they had to change the text and make it fit with a different author, a different Tana's opinion. Zav Arel Kekalim. Gold is like vessels that you depreciate it. I would say you depreciate it. Art Scroll says that it stays at its appraised value. Dinri Zav Harel Kuksafim. Golden coins are like silver, are like regular money that increases by 50%. But Medvar Mamurim B'Malkum Shnogul Apartim, that's if you're able to spend these gold dinars and exchange them, break them into smaller denominations. But if you're in a place where they don't break these big coins, you appraise them and you just write their actual value into the Kesuvos. So if they were appraised for $3,000, you write $3,000 into the Kesuvos. These are the words of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Sheb Rabban Gamliel ben Gamliel. Sheb Rabban Shimon Gamliel Omer, because the opinion of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel was in a place where they wouldn't exchange them and break them into smaller denomination, you evaluate them for their value, you appraise them, and they stay at their value. So the second brisa, Rabbi Yochanan can fit in with the second brisa. But what about the first brisa? We said that gold is like kalim, and if he's saying kalim means gold kalim, it shouldn't say kalim, it should say kalav. It's kalim that are made out of the same material, gold. It should have said kalav. So as we turn to 67a3, kasha. That's a strong question. We can't answer that question. However, ibay seima, I could tell you an answer for that. So there's a machlokus what exactly this means. The brisa is talking about, Rashi says that this thing is, so Rabbi Yochanan is saying that gold doesn't go down in value, but the brisa says it go down in value because he's talking about substantial gold things that when you touch them, nothing goes wrong with them. But the brisa that says that you reduce it by 80% is when you touch it, some of the gold rubbed off. So ArtScroll translated it as chips of gold, but it's some type of thing where you're losing some of the gold when you touch it. So it's clearly not going to retain its value. And Ravashi says, bimamla. Very, very fine gold. The ArtScroll says that means gold dust. According to what Rashi gives an old French word, which is translated as just very fine gold that, I don't know, it's something similar, but again, it's when you touch it, you lose some of the gold from the object. So therefore, it's not going to retain its value. You're going to reduce it by 20%.
Right, 24 karat, softer gold, yeah. That's what he means.
It seems to have to do something that I don't understand exactly. They seem to be saying something about when you find gold, some of it stays down there or something. So I guess that's why ArtScroll translates gold dust. I may be misunderstanding the Hebrew or Aramaic, but that's that. So therefore, they're talking about different types of gold. So Rabbi Yochanan's talking about a substantial gold, nothing is being lost from these vessels. And according to the Brisa, you decrease it by 80% because some of the gold is going to wear off, and we know that for a fact. Now, Tosfos points out that if you use fancy gold, dishes and stuff, they're gonna lose value a lot. And like that type of stuff is not for everyday use. And also, if you gave them jewelry, because one of the opinions we said gold utensils like jewelry, they're not. The wife is going to want to keep that jewelry and keep it nice, so she's not going to wear it too much and get it worn out and stuff. Okay, Rabbi Yanai says, "B'samim shel antuchya hareu kiksafim." The spices of antuchya, which they translate as Antioch, which makes sense. They are like money that you could do a lot of business with them, and you could increase their value by 50% in the ksuva. So from the way I understand Rashi might be saying if you're in that place and she brings besamim into the ksuva, that place is known as a spice hub or as a besamim, a perfume hub. So if she would bring in a dowry these materials in that place, you could very easily do business with that. So it's like cash. Amr Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amr Rabbi Yonasan. So now we're going to list other things that are similar to that. Gemalim Shalom Aravia, Isha Gova Parnamehem. If you had Arabian camels, she can. So there's a machlokas how to understand the following halachas. This and the next few. According to Rashi, the Arabian camels are like cash. So if she brought Arabian camels, let's say worth $10,000 into the marriage, he'll write $10,000. He'll write in the ksuva for 15,000. So it's like cash. That's how Rashi understands this and the next few halachos in the Gemara. Tosos understands it different because it doesn't say that they're like silver. It calls them parna. ArtScroll translates parna as profit, but Tosos understands it is that if she would get divorced and collect from certain things, normally she wouldn't want to collect from movable properties. Tosos points out that we in our ksuva, we mentioned that she'll collect from anything, even the shirt off of her husband's back. So we do collect movable items, movable property as a ksuva. But so Tosos understands that if you can get certain types of merchandise, those are like preferred type of things. So if the husband's estate has these type of Arabian camels, she'd be very happy to collect the ksuva from that, and she won't necessarily need to collect ksuva from cash. Amar Rapapi says, Hani tusvi de mechsi, the shirts of be mechsi, isha gova parnamehem. Again, according to Rashi, it means if she brings $1,000 worth of them into the marriage, he writes 1,500 into the ksuva. But according to Tosfos, if you have that type of shirts, she can, if they get divorced or he dies, she'll be happy to collect ksuva from those shirts. But Amar Rapapi also said, Hani Saki Didodia Ashli, certain types of sacks from Rhodia and ropes of Kimchonia, Ishagova Parnaman. Again, according to Rashi, it means if he brings these type of items into the dowry, the husband will write 1.5 times their value in the ksuva. Rava says, Meiresh Havamina originally said, Hani Arnaki de Mechuza, certain types. So Rashi says these were sacks that were filled with coins in Mechoza, which was the name of a city. Ishagova Parnamehem. She could collect her ksuva from them. So Rashi here for the word parna says two opinions. He heard that she could collect her ksuva from in the case where her husband died and they still have minor children. So remember, we learned that the Chachamim are very, very strict in not giving away property of Yisomim because they may not want this stuff given away. So they Chachamim try to delay until they're old enough to be able to make an informed decision if they would want to give up this belongings or not. So if they have these types of bags of money in Mechuzah, Rashi heard that if she could collect her ksuva, even if the kids are still children and can't make a decision, but everyone would be okay. All Yisomim in that case, when they grow up, they would have been fine with that being paid to pay off this creditor of their father's estate. My time, what's the reason? Asmachti Olahu. Everyone relies on them in this place like karka, like real estate, because people in Mechoza are business people and they all use these bags of cash to buy and sell and as so it's universally accepted, just like karka. So so the basin would allow it to be spent, and we don't have to worry that the Yisomim, when they grow up, would have not wanted this part of their father's estate to be spent this way. But once I saw that women would take these as a ksuva payment and go away, and if they would get paid the ksuva in land, and when they find land, they're going to buy land with the money they have. I said they actually rely on land, and therefore they're not allowed to collect from these bags of money anymore. They only will collect from land. So it's not a problem for the estate to pay land. So originally he thought that because everyone used these money, she was able to collect for money even when the kids were minors. But then he saw that women would collect it, but then as soon as they would find a piece of land to buy, they would convert these bags of money into land. He saw that the women preferred collecting land as a ksuva, so therefore he said, we will stop giving these bags of money as a ksuva payment when the sons of the deceased man are children, because it's not something that's universally accepted anymore. They take it, but they try to flip it into land as soon as possible. Mishnah. If someone marries off his daughter, he can't give her less than 50 zuz worth of clothes. Or pasach l'nisaruma. If he wasn't going to give her anything, aruma literally means naked, but it means that he wasn't going to give her any dowry. Lo yomer habal kishach nisena levesi achasena b'chsusi. The husband, the future husband, is not allowed to say, when she comes into my house, then I will buy clothes for her. He has to buy her clothes, even though she's still living in her father's house that didn't have chuppah yet. If someone marries off an orphan girl, so meaning the tzedaka is marrying her off, she's entitled to 50 zuz from the tzedaka. If they have enough money in the tzedakah fund, they give her according to her family stature. So if there's plenty of money in the fund and her family stature would be 100 zuz, the Gabbai tzedakah would give her 100 zuz for her dowry. So because of this, we're going to learn, the Gemara is going to talk a lot of halachos of tzedakah pretty soon. Gemara. Rabbi says this is talking about 50 zuz, it means regular zuz. If you remember from a couple months ago, we talked about from Tyre and Sor, they had solid gold coins, so their coins were worth like 8 times as much as the regular coins. So we can't be talking about 50 super valuable coins because that's a lot of money. Mimai, how do I know this? Midiktani Seifa, because the last part of the Mishnah says, if there's enough in the tzedakah coffers, you provide her according to her honor. Vamrin on my kiss, and we explained what does it mean in the coffers. Amarachva, a certain Mora whose name was Rachava, said, Arnaki shel tzedakah, the purse of tzedakah. If we mean it's literally 50 super valuable zuz, how much more would we give her? That's 50 of these golden coins are a tremendous sum. How much more would be likely to be in the tzedakah purse? Not nearly that much. It means 50 regular zos. Ton Rabbanon, we learned in the Brisa. Yosef Yisamish Bolis Parnes. I have to get a drink. I'll be right back. Sorry. Ton Rabbanon, Yosef Yisamish Bolis Parnes. If an orphan boy and orphan girl come to tzedakah, they both need food. First, they give money. They take care of the girl, and then they take care of the boy. Because for a boy to go begging from door to door is not so bad, but it's really not. It's not appropriate. It's too very humiliating for a girl to have to go door to door. Yasam v'yasoma is returned to Samazayin number base. Shaboli say, if an orphan boy and an orphan girl are getting married, how does the tzedakah deal with it? Masina say yasam. First, they take care of the girl's need and they get her married off, and then they marry off the boy. Because the shame of the woman is worse than the shame of the man. So we'll see from the next lines here, it doesn't necessarily just mean provide her with the money she needs for her wedding before we provide him with the needs he needs for his wedding. But we're going to see that there's a drasha, we'll read this, that there's a drasha that part of tzedakah is if someone is unmarried, you find a wife for him. So part of the community tzedakah mitzvah is to marry someone off. When Rav Aaron was giving the shir in Bava Basra, in the first parak, when he talks about the tzedakah sugya, if he says, if you look at Parak Zayin of Hilchos Matnas Anim and the Rambam and Parak Tes, they both talk about providing needs for a poor person, but they're different requirements. So why is it different? He quoted Radbaz, which I never found inside, who said that one chapter is talking about communal responsibilities and the other chapter is talking about individual responsibilities.
For an organization, I just got a piece of mail from yesterday.
I think they do the reverse. I think they have it backwards. But I have to look up to see exactly which one's which. I didn't get that piece of mail, Baruch Hashem.
I had never heard of that organization before.
Oh, a new organization?
Chicago.
Oh.
No, this is Chicago. They just started it, I guess.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of a different organization. It's been in Chicago for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Tan Rabbanan, we learned in the Brisa, Yasam Shabbat Lisa, if a orphan boy is going to get married, first you rent him a house. So you get him a bed and you furnish the house. Then you find a woman for him to marry and live in the house. So you don't get him married first and then try to get the house ready. First, you have to get the house ready, which seems to be the opposite of the yeshiva world today with kids who have both parents and they should, live and be well. The pasuk in Ray says you have to give him for what he is lacking, for that which he is for all the lacking that he is lacking. Okay, machzoro and yachzar, ArtScroll uses different verbs to translate all of his needs, whatever is lacking, but it's the same verb, machzoro and yachzar, what you're missing, what you're lacking. So de machzoro, that which he is lacking, zahabayis, this is a house. Asher yachzar, that he is lacking, this is a bed and a table. Lo, to him, zu isha. This means the wife. As the pasuk in Bereshis, Hashem said, I will make for him, lo, for Adam, a helpmate. And then he created Chava. So the needs and the words in the pasuk are say the bigger needs is the house, that Asher Yachsar, the bed and the table. Lo, to him, he needs the wife. So that's the order that we do things. Tanar Bana, we learned in a brayso, Deimachsoro, a different drasha on to things that he is lacking. You have to sustain him. You don't have to give him so much tzedakah that will make him richer than he was before. Whatever he's lacking, even a horse to ride on him, and a servant to run in front of him. They said about Hillel the elder, there was a certain poor person from a good family, a wealthy family. He hired a horse for him to ride on and an eved to run in front of him. It was a form of honor. And once he couldn't find an eved, so Hillel himself ran in front of this man. So these halachos, if we look in the Rabbi so these obligations that we mentioned here, these are obligations of the individual. What tzedakah do you have to do to marry someone off? Obviously, the one halacha from the Mishnah was about what the gabbai giving the girl the 50 coins for for her clothes. But these other things that to get someone married or to hire someone, if he was accustomed to have a limousine, you have to get him a limousine. That's basically like what the horse means in modern times. The community doesn't pay for that stuff. That's something that is an obligation, that's a tzedakah that one person could give to another person. The community doesn't give that type of tzedakah. Because in the 9th chapter of Hilchot Matnas Aniyim, it talks about Gabaim who collect tzedakah, and they distribute it. How much do they distribute to the in-town Aniyim, collecting food for the people, for the what's the word, itinerant Aniyim who come and go. And none of these halachos are in chapter 9. But in chapter 7, when it says mitzvah saselitin tzedakah l'aniyim k'fi ma'asheroi la'ani, it's a positive commandment to give charity to poor people according to what is fitting for the ani, as long as im haisa yad hanos in maseges, as long as the person who's giving tzedakah could afford it. He mentions this halach, and all the halachas in our Gemara that we're going to talk about are all in the 7th chapter. So Rav Aaron explained, based on a Ridvaz, which I didn't see, that these halachos are, the community doesn't have to give someone a horse and a runner. That's not a communal mitzvah. That's because there's two different aspects of tzedakah. There's a communal tzedakah, and there's individual tzedakah. And there's parshas of tzedakah, I believe, in next week's parsha in Bahar, in 2 weeks parsha in Bahar, no, next week in Bahar, I think it is. And then there's tzedakah in parshas Re'eh. This stuff that we're learning here in this pasuk is from Re'eh. That's whatever. One of them is communal and one of them is for individual. So Panar Banan, my Seba Anshe Galil Elyon. Once there was an incident with people who lived in the upper Galil. There was a certain poor person from a wealthy family from Tzipori, litra basar b'chol yom, a certain large amount of meat every day. So litra basar my revusa. What's so extraordinary about that? It's as if Hillel buying a limousine, or getting a limousine for this poor person to use. So Amar Rav Huna says litra basar shel mishal ofos. He used, let's say, they were fine fatty birds. So it was a very tremendous amount, an expensive amount of fancy of these fowl to eat every day. And if you want to say belitra basar mamish, so much basar, it costs like a bucket's worth of gold or coins to buy that much meat. Rav Ashi says, though the case was a little different, Hasam Kfar Katan Haya, B'choyom Hava Mafside Chayusa Am Tuluse. That it was a small place, so there wasn't such a big demand for meat, but because he needed meat every day, they didn't have refrigerators, they had to shuck an animal every day, and so he could eat what he was used to, and then the rest of it went to waste. Now,
This is a Gemara joke there, I guess. Instead of saying that the papa was from Tzipori, the Sibri says that they bought him the meat of a tzipor.
Right. So for the first answer, go to a certain type of fowl, expensive type of fatty bird, because instead of being from Tzipori, which is a real city, Tzipori,
Right.
it's like the word tzipor, a bird, so it was bird meat. But it wasn't literally that he was from Tzipori, because that might reconcile Rav Ashi. Tzipori wasn't such a small town back then.
Yes, but they're wealthy one. Supposedly. Yeah, we went to the dig there.
Well, also we know that I think the Sanhedrin in the time of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi was there. We know Rabbi Yehuda Anasi was very wealthy. How the asal kamei to Rabbi Nechemia? A certain poor person came in front of Rabbi Nechemia. Amar le b'me'at hasoit. He said, "What do you eat?" Amar le b'vaser shaman v'yayin yashan. I eat fatty meat and old wine. So meaning very expensive taste. Ritzon chashetegalgal imi badashim. Rabbi Nechemia didn't have that. He says, "I'm eating beans. Do you want to share the lentils or the beans with me?" Gilgal ima badashim. So he ate the lentils with Rabbi Nechemia Umeis, but he died because of that meal, not necessarily during the meal, but it was beneath what he was usually eating. Amar Rabbi Nechemia said, "Oy lezeh shahargo Nechemia." Woe to this person that was killed by Nechemia. So the Gemara says, "Adarabba, oylo Nechemia shahargo lezemi baile." He should have said, "Woe to me that this guy died because of me." So that other guy was not used. He didn't grow up eating that type of meat. He made himself accustomed. He spoiled himself to only have this fancy stuff. So if he wouldn't have spoiled himself, he wouldn't have come to this. Meaning, when we say the other person he needed this fatty meat or the fatty fowl, that's who he grew up. He didn't have a choice in the matter. This guy made himself spoiled to only have super expensive, fancy, fatty meat and old wine. How the also come to Rabbi? There was a certain person who came in front of Rabbi. Amar lo b'me'ata soed. So he says, so he needed food to eat. So he says, what do you want to eat? What do you usually eat? Amar le b'tarnagos b'tum v'yayin yashan. A very fat hen and old wine. So Amar le v'lo chayash l'ducha g'tzibura. You don't think that it's a chutzpah, that it's you're extending the community so much that they have to spend all this extra money for you. We know that you didn't grow up like this. Amar le atumi didika chelna. Am I eating from their food? I'm eating from Rabbanu Shalom. The Tanina, because we learned in the Brisa, Pasuk in Ashrei, the eyes of everything are looking towards you, and you give to them their food in his time. So how come it goes from plural to the very end, the last word be'ito, in his time and not their time? Be'itam lo nemar, it doesn't say in their time. Ella be'ito, in his time. Teach us that Hashem gives everyone, and I think this refers to animals also, every organism gets their parnasa in his proper time. So if I wouldn't have been able to, this was what I was eating, that's because Hashem gave me that parnasa. So don't blame me for it. But but in the time that it took him to make this drasha about from the pasuk in Ashrei, Rava's sister, who he hadn't seen in 13 years, came, and she had a fatty chicken hen and old wine. So Amar, Rava says, "My dekame, look what's happened right in front of me." Amar le, so Rava said to the poor person, "Anetzilach kumachal." So Nanetzilach Rashi says, I said more than I should have. Come eat. So obviously we would call nowadays we might call the siyata deshmaya. It was a sign from above that that this person should have had that. So Rava didn't eat the special food that his sister brought. He gave it to the ani. Hanabrana, we learned in the Brisa. Ain loveina wrote to least parnes. If a person doesn't have money but he doesn't want to accept tzedaka, nosin lo l'shum hava v'chozim nosin l'shum atana. You give it to him as a loan, and then later you change it as a gift. Diva Rabbi Meir, this is Rabbi Meir's opinion. But the Chachamim said, nosin l'shum atana, you give it to him as a gift, v'chozim v'nosin so l'shum hava, and then you switch and make it to him as a loan. So the Gemara asks in the Chachamim here, nosin l'shum atana, you give it him as a gift. The case is the guy's refusing to accept tzedakah. So halo shakal, he wouldn't take it. So Rabba says, leave tachlo l'shum atana. You say the Chachamim, the opinion is the Gabbai says to him, they know that he needs tzedakah. They say, I would like to give you this from the tzedakah fund. And then if he says, no, I'm not going to take it to tzedakah fund, so he says, fine, I will loan you the money. And then he says, okay. And we end up, but the Gabbai has no intention of ever trying to collect on the loan. He really wants to give it as tzedakah, but the only way to get the guy to take it is to give it to him as a loan. So according to the Chachamim, first you try to give it to him as a gift, and if he refuses, then you say, I'm giving it to you as a loan, but you're really giving it to him as a gift. We're going to see a few more cases in the next few lines. There are people like this also, sick people. They have plenty of money, but they're not buying food for themselves or clothes for themselves. It's a mental illness. They have money, but they only want to be supported by tzedakah. You give it to him as a gift, but later you can collect it from him. So the Gemara asks, what do you mean you could collect it from him? He's not going to pay. We know that this guy has a mental illness that he's refusing to pay for his own needs. He only wants to get everything for free. Means once he dies, you can collect from his estate the money that the tzedakah had spent on his upkeep. Rabbi Shimon Omer, go back to the Brisa. Rabbi Shimon says, if he has money and he doesn't want to support himself, he only wants tzedakah to pay for it. Just leave him alone. We don't have to do anything to him. We don't have to give him anything. What if he has no money, but he doesn't want to accept tzedakah either? So that's like the first case. He needs tzedakah, but he's refusing tzedakah. So he says, bring us a something that you have that we could take as a collateral. So that his mind will be at ease. So again, we're making it look like a loan that we're taking a collateral, but really we're happy to. We're not really making it a loan. We're just making it look like a loan, so he will take it. Tanurabanan havet, lend. So this is. So again, this is from the same pasuk we just quoted from Rabbi in regard to marrying a wife. It's a different pasuk, but it's from the same group of psukim in Rabbi. Oh, it's actually the beginning of the pasuk. Havei tavitenu de machzor asher yachzar lo. I think. Yeah, it's part of that same pasuk we quoted, but it's earlier. So havei tavitenu, lend him, and it's a repeated verb. This is talking about someone who doesn't have money and he doesn't want to accept tzedakah. So you give it to him as a loan, and then you convert it loan as a gift. You never collect it from him. If he wants to collect, say, no, it was a gift. And if he says, okay, then, and I won't pay back, then you can do that. And if he insists on paying, according to many opinions, you can take it back just to make him feel good. Tavitenu, but then the next pasuk, he uses the same verb again, Tavitenu, you shall surely loan. This is talking about someone who has money but refuses to spend money on himself. He wants tzedakah to pay for him. That's talking about that you could give him as a gift, and then after he dies, you can collect from the estate. Diva Rabbi Yehuda, this is the words of Rabbi Yehuda. But the Chachamim say Yeshov if he has and he doesn't want to buy food or clothes for himself, he only wants to get from tzedaka, just ignore him. So then what do they make a drasha from Tavitanu? The Torah speaks in the way that people do. Go do this fast. Sometimes you use the double verb. So the Chachamim say you don't need to make a drasha from that pasuk. Okay, we're here. We'll leave it over here by Mar Ukva.